snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys, so I have been tagged by Lisa Aniela. Sorry if I butchered your name, I'm really sorry. But her channel is linked down below to do the My 2013 Reads in 20 Superlatives tag. This was originally created by Estelle. I will link her channel down below as well. And let's get started. The best read of 2013. For me, I had to go with The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. It's just such a wonderful book. There is so much depth and so much detail that you just cannot beat it. It was revolutionary. Why has there never been more books that have been this detailed, this much intensity? It was phenomenal and I would highly recommend it. I have done a review of it on my channel. It is amazing, it is fantastic. I cannot rave about it more. Definitely check that out. The next one is the worst book of 2013. This one was quite bad. Like, there are not many books that I don't like. I'm quite easygoing. I'll usually give a 3-star rating to a book if it's just okay. But there were 2 books this year that I hated, and my most hated out of them was The Shining Girls by Lauren Bukes. I just could not get into that book. I did complete it and I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. I just didn't enjoy it. I felt like the characters were really rubbish and I didn't enjoy the development of the story. I didn't connect with it and I didn't think that it was a very well written story. I know that a lot of people really like it. It's got really good reviews. I don't know why, because I hated it, but unfortunately that was my worst book of 2013. So the longest book that I read this year, I thought it was going to be A Dance with Dragons by George R.R. Martin, but when I looked back it was actually The Shadow Rising, Book 4 of The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, and that was a stonking 1056 pages. So whoa, I can't even believe I got through that many pages in a book. It's a lot, and that is book 4. There are loads of books in that series. There's about 13, I think, and they're all about the same size or longer. So, yeah, that was good. A Dance with Dragons is also over 1,000 pages. It's 1,016 pages, so that's why I thought that that would be my longest book. So I'm quite happy that I read 2 really long books. Then, of course, that leads me on to the shortest book. So the shortest book I read this year was kind of 2 novellas, and that was The Great Bazaar and Brian's Gold, and they are by Peter V. Brett. I read them on my Kindle and I really enjoyed it. It's kind of an expansion on the world of the Demon Cycle series, which is by him. It's definitely worth reading if you have read the series, because it's really interesting and it gives you a little bit more insight into the stuff, and it's only 121 pages for both of the novellas, so it was really enjoyable and I would definitely recommend it. So the best surprise of 2013 was actually The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman, because I had never read a Neil Gaiman book and I kind of found it in Tesco's and it looked beautiful, and I didn't know anything about it. I just heard that it was coming out soon, and I found it really soon after it had come out. I picked it up and I read it. His writing style is just fantastic and it made me fall in love with Neil Gaiman completely and led me on to read more and more of his books. So I've read 4 of his books this year, so that's quite good. Next is the biggest letdown. For me, that was The Girl with Glass Feet by Ali Shaw, which was a book that I had found online. I hadn't really heard anything about it, but it sounded really interesting. It was about a girl who obviously had glass feet, and it was a really interesting concept. I felt like the idea was definitely solid and could have been really exciting and vibrant, but the story was a massive letdown because it kind of gradually, very slowly picked up pace, and then it got to the end and it just kind of cut off the story and there was no real explanation as to what was going on, and it just wasn't that exciting and it wasn't anywhere near as good as I was hoping from the blurb that was written on Amazon. So I was really disappointed with that, unfortunately, but oh well. It was a beautiful cover though, so at least it has a few merits. Next, the most overhyped book that I read this year was probably The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey. I read this a few months after it had kind of died down a little bit, but I still found it nowhere near as good as everyone had made out. I enjoyed it, I thought it was a decent book, I just felt like I had been overhyped and that it wasn't as good as I was expecting because of all the raving that people had been doing, and that was a bit of a disappointment, so that was a shame, but I did still enjoy it and I probably will be picking up the second one in the series. The best sci-fi book that I read this year was Wanderer's Escape by Simon Goodson. I don't really read sci-fi. One of my New Year resolutions is to get into more sci-fi because I want to try it out. I know it's meant to be a really exciting genre and I just haven't found any books in my local bookshops and stuff that have really intrigued me enough to pick them up. But Wanderer's Escape I was sent for review. I have done a review on my channel and I did enjoy it. I thought it was a really interesting read. It was kind of different and I like the space travelling sort of stuff because having not read much sci-fi, I obviously don't read a lot of space things, so it was really different in that way and I just enjoyed it. It was a really short read and it was just a nice little read. So that was the best sci-fi. Best fantasy read that I read all year was probably the entirety of the Painted Man series. I read all three of them this year, the ones that are out, and I am so excited for the fourth and the fifth one. The fourth one is supposed to be coming out in 2015, so next year. I'm so excited and I cannot wait. I really enjoyed all of them. I would probably say that the third one was my favourite because the first two are fantastic, but they get better as they go because obviously you get more familiar with the characters and it's just really engaging. The whole premise is really exciting. There's so much different stuff that is influenced from Arabic cultures and desert dwelling and different ideas of demons and stuff, and it's just such a good series. I rave about it all the time. You have to get it because it is so fantastic and it really is one of my favourite series. So next is the most entertaining read, and for me that was probably Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn series. I read book 2, The Well of Ascension, in 2013 and book 1 the year before in 2012. Hopefully in 2014 I can get on to book 3. I love Brandon Sanderson. I read Steelheart by him not long ago, but the Mistborn trilogy is just really exciting. The concepts behind it I just think are really different and unique. It definitely brings you into the story and makes you feel as if you're part of the world, and it's just a very inclusive read. I really enjoyed it as I was reading it. I felt like I was part of it and I was sitting watching all of the people in the book just as they went around doing all their stuff. I would highly recommend it, of course. Then I have the most disturbing read. Now, this one was a really hard one for me because I don't read horror. I haven't really read any horror books this year at all, so I kind of went with The Lies of Lokimora by Scott Lynch. Not for the entire book, but for aspects of it. There is some torture and there are things that are really gruesome and really made me feel quite physically sick when they were being described in the book, but it really helps with your immersion and it's an amazing book, so don't let it put you off that I'm saying it's my most disturbing read. It was just so realistically described that I really enjoyed it and it really did touch me and make me believe that what they were writing about was real, so I definitely would say that one is my most disturbing, but it was fantastic, so pick it up. Then the next one is the most moving. Now this one was quite hard to think of, so I didn't actually choose a book, I chose a graphic novel because I only started reading graphic novels this year. The first graphic novel I ever picked up was actually one of my favourite books ever. And it's one of the only books that I've ever bought for other people. I don't tend to buy books for other people because a lot of my friends and family don't read that much, but this book I actually bought for my granddad because I thought that he would love it, and my grandma has read it as well, and it's just such a moving book, and that is Mouse by Art Spiegelman. And it is a graphic novel. It's a story of Art Spiegelman's father, and it's all about his time living in Germany and Austria and how he got through the war and everything like that, but it's the fact that it's illustrated I think just made me more touched by the story, and I did have a few tears at some points, and it was just such a heartwarming and beautiful and gruesome and terrible ordeal that he went through, but a wonderful way of presenting it. It's just so clear and so precise and methodical, but the drawing style is kind of exciting and quirky, and I don't know how to describe it, but basically it moved me to tears, and I'm really interested in the Holocaust and things like that, so I really found it to be such a good book, and for my first ever graphic novel it was fantastic. I would definitely say that if you want to get into graphic novels, that one is amazing. Do try it. So the next one was The Best Love. Again, I don't really read love stories and romance because it's kind of predictable and I don't like it. I just like it to sort of develop naturally. I don't like insta-love and all that. So for me, I just kind of chose a really quirky one, which is obviously The Selection by Kira Cass, which is entirely about love. I really liked it because it was a fun take on love. It was like The Bachelor was going on, and I just really enjoyed it because I like watching The Bachelor. I watch a lot of rubbish TV, but I enjoy it, and I enjoyed the book because of that. So I definitely felt like it was a fun way to go about the love circle, and there is a love triangle going on in it, but I just feel like it's really fun and quirky, and the characters are enjoyable, so I liked that for Best Love. Next is the Best Illustrations. Now, I have read only a few books with illustrations this year, but probably the best ones would be the Dragonology series by Dougald A. Steer. I really enjoyed this series because it had little illustrations, pencil drawings of the dragons, and it was just so beautiful to see them. Obviously, dragons are mystical creatures, so you can make them however you want, and it's just beautiful to see these tiny little pencil renderings, which are just so stunning. And I love illustrations. They really help to immerse you in the story and make it so much more interesting. I loved them, but I also loved some of the illustrations in Neil Gaiman's works as well. Next is the Best Female Character. I chose Vin from the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson. As I said, I've already spoken about this, but Vin is essentially a really strong female character. She has awesome powers that she uses, and she's just a really rock-solid character. She's just such a well-developed character, and her past all influences how she acts, and I think that she's just a really inspiring and exciting character. Whenever I read her, I really enjoy her parts, so definitely Vin. Best male character is Kavoth from The Name of the Wind, because the depth that it goes into, I've told you before, the entire story is the story of his life, and he is just a fantastic character. He's done so many things and been to all the places ever, so yeah, it's just really exciting to see him and to listen to what he's saying and just be part of his world, so I really enjoy him as a character. So next is the Best Villain, and the best villain for me was Firefight and Steelheart from Steelheart by Brandon Sanderson. They are superheroes, but they're anti-superheroes. They're kind of bad, they're ruling powers, and they're evil, and they were just so exciting to read about, so different from everything I've ever read, because I've never read superheroes, I was never into them as a child, so it was just really exciting, and sort of fast punches and kicks and exciting powers, and I just really enjoyed it, so they were definitely my favourite villains. So the Best Sidekick, I had to think quite a lot about this one, but I kind of ended up going with Nathan from the History Keepers series by Damien Dibben. I got sent that book for review, and I ended up picking up the second one because it was so good, and I just really loved it. It was a middle grade series. The next one comes out next year, and I'm really excited about it. But Nathan is essentially a kind of stuck-up guy. He thinks that he's quite cool, he thinks that he owns everything, but he makes some really witty comments, and he does some really funny things, and he is actually really clever, and he is kind of justified in what he boasts about all the time. He thinks he's a fashion guru, and it's just really exciting to read whenever he comes along, but he's not a main character as such. He's kind of a sidekick to the main character, who is Jake the Jones, but it's really exciting and I really enjoyed it, so definitely that was fun, and he is a good sidekick. So next is the Biggest Failure. Now for me, I kind of really wanted to try and get some classics read this year, and I started reading Jane Austen's 7 novels, which is a lovely big book that I have got. I started reading it, and I just could not get into it. I am so bad with classics. If I don't have to read them, I won't. I need some good classic suggestions. If any of you know any, then definitely let me know, because I was really disappointed that I didn't finish any classics really this year. But I finished like classics in the fantasy genre, but no sort of just general classics like Jane Austen. So definitely, if anyone has any ideas of ones that they think I would like, let me know, because I want to finish some in 2014. Maybe. We'll see. But that was my biggest failure. But I'm not too heartbroken, as you can tell. And then my biggest achievement this year was probably finally getting to The Hobbit. Now, I saw the first part of the film last year, and I saw the second part yesterday. I loved it. I thought it was amazing. I was so happy that I had finally read The Hobbit a few months ago. I have reviewed it, and I was just really enjoying watching the film and knowing what the book was like as well, because that really gave me more of a sense of what was going on, and I really enjoyed it, and I thought that it was amazing. And it's one of those books that I tried to read when I was about 11 and I just couldn't get into it, and now I finally finished it, aged 19, so thank God. That was really good, and hopefully in the next year, 2014 or 2015, maybe I'll get onto the Lord of the Rings and I will read through all of them, because I really enjoyed The Hobbit once I got into it, and definitely I know that The Lord of the Rings is meant to be even better, so hopefully in 2014 that will happen. So that was a lot of talking. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully you can get some of these books that I've said are good, and I hope that you really enjoy it. And if you've read any of the books that I talked about, or if you have any different opinions, definitely let me know in the comments below, because I love to talk to you guys. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all again soon. Bye! Me and you gonna have a little chat.